Is this working? Okay, yeah. Cool. Cool. Very, very cool. Number one gaming moments. Oh, Jesus Christ. It's what happens when you don't talk for like 5 years. There we go. There we go. Wow. It's been 5 years. It's been 5 years, guys. It's been so long. My God. Shit. Wait, what am I doing? I didn't put the fucking guys. Look. Let's. Wait, that's the wrong thing. Let's look at the process here. Actually, I need to turn this around. Let's look at the process. Look, that's you guys. Hello. Hi, Toy. Hi, Shinny. Hello. Your room has a ceiling? No, that's an optical illusion. Look, this thing goes here, right? Usually you put towels here, but I put a phone there. Thank God. I know. I need the fresh air, so no ceiling for me. Actually, wait, I shouldn't do that. Sorry, just look at the table here for a second. I need to tilt my monitor. There we go. If I put a towel there, you wouldn't be able to see the screen though. Exactly. Exactly, that's exactly the point. What do you mean silly people made that? It's perfect. It's like a screensaver, you know, because it's saving the screen from you having to look at it. I mean, technically it's saving you from having to look at the screen, but it's also saving the screen from having to, you know, look at you. I'd hang my cum sock in that. You know, that would be a valid purpose, but it'd also be like probably a bit unsanitary. Wouldn't you risk getting your monitor dirty like that? And I imagine that having, you know, that particular substance on the this ain't quite right. That particular substance on the screen would probably be a bit detrimental to its physical integrity. That's not quite right. Time to become a plastic hook, I guess. People can do multiple things, Shinny. You have to believe in yourself. If you want to hang on to cum socks, you can do it. You don't have to become a different thing to do that, you know? You can do it. I believe in you. And I know you're probably gonna say that you don't, but I'll believe in you for the both of us, you know? You got this. You got that, cum sock. Anyway. Hello. How are you guys doing? How was the weekend? Off to a normal start? Always. When do we not ever have a normal start? All our starts are normal. A smarter person to me could make like a Pokemon joke there, because like I think there's like a normal type Pokemon, which is really fucked up if you think about it. Like, why would you, like, you know? Why? My God, is that popular deer VTuber Toby Deer, who streams regularly at twitch.tv/TobyDeer and who has recently been accepted into the Watchpoint Pride organization. We can call it an organization, right? That's correct, right? Technically, right? Hi Kaz, what's up? How are you doing? It was a weekend. I had nothing but birthday cake and snacks. That sounds good. Was it a birthday cake for you or someone you knew? Or did you steal a random family's birthday cake? My cute dears. I know, right? It was yours. Nice. Happy birthday. Or happy belated birthday? That's how that word works, right? Happy late birthday. It's an org, I'm pretty sure. That is fucking poggers. It was on Friday. Happy late birthday. Did I? Yeah, because we didn't tell you happy birthday on Friday, I think. Did we? I don't remember that. That's okay. Birthdays are a scam anyway. thank for. I mean, you don't have to. No one has to divulge their birthday. I don't, because I don't want people celebrating it. Is this set up? There we go. See me in the car when I'm reading the map. I don't get that. Oh, for telling us after the fact. Got it, got it, got it, got it. Yeah, that's a driver joke. I don't get that. I don't know what a car is. We're gonna play SWAT for at least the game because I want to actually shoot people instead of capture objective, hold objective. Ugh. That joke made me I feel like Troy has a bit of a bad history with that type of Alpha Zero TTV. Let's fucking go. It was a good joke. It was a good joke. Okay, I want to work on getting my movement to be like, because right now my movement is like 90% legs, 10% portals, right? I want to change that. I want my movement to be more portal. Ah! Wait, why do you have to make it up? Maybe Trill likes to be mad? You know? Now you're thinking of portals. I'm not, that's the problem. I'm thinking outside of them. Because I don't fucking use portals, you know? Whew. Scary. Are you fucking serious? I wanna coin a term here. I'm sure there's like a better term for it already, but I want to coin a term for people who shoot through portals. So like, you know, stand and just shoot through portals. I'm gonna call them window shoppers. Get it? It's cute because like they just look through the portal because they can't afford to actually go in, so they just shop through the windows, you know? Funny. Motherfucker. Poor people? No. Listen. Poor people don't window shop. Poor people shoplift, and they're valid for it. Shoplifting is always morally okay. If you see someone shoplifting, no, you don't. Unlucky. I thought you couldn't shoot through portals, though you can, unfortunately. I wish you couldn't. I'm a bit on the fence about being able to see through them, but it's definitely really cringe that you can shoot through the portals. I would prefer it if that was not a thing. Is that someone like right next to me? Holy shit. I'm doing very bad. Shoplifting is a poor white lady thing that a poor... No. A lot of poor people shoplift. Which is good. They are right to do so. fuck? Bonk. But what happens to the bullets? They teleport. Just like ants, you know? Fred, goddamn it, dude. Motherfucker. What do you mean? What do I mean? Teleporting? Like going from a place to another? Instantaneously? In a fashion that would perhaps be a bit difficult to grasp logically? I'm doing absolutely fucking horrible today. Holy shit. Motherfucker, knock it off. Okay. You don't want bullets to go through, so what happened to the bullets? Oh, you just eat them, you know? Love the crunch. God damn. Unlucky. Their team did really good. Holy shit. The portals to be hungry? No. No. Not the portals. That's the problem. The problem right now is that the portals eat them and forcibly eject them immediately. I want to eat the bullets, you know, myself, without them being able to harm me. I think that would be very cool and sexy. You do be hungry? I do be hungry a lot, it's true. Oh, Alpha Zero is on the other team now. I took the TTV out of my name also. I should also eat something. You should. Food is important. Nutrition is important. Plus it starts with nut, so you should enjoy it. It's like one of the few maps where I have like a favorite like a portal thing that I do, which is that one. It's very good. I like to do that. It's fun. You go whew, high up into the air. That guy just killed like 15 people. Incredible. Ooh. Okay. What the fuck, dude? How did you even see me there? Jesus. Ooh. Oh, hello. What the? What? What the fuck was that? This is scary. People are being good at the video game. It's very scary. Ow. Revenge. God. Whoever's that sock, which I didn't enter on that. Why? Of all the things you say, that's the one you regret saying. I don't close their eyes and pretend it didn't happen. It is permanently engraved into all of our memories, collectively speaking. You can never truly erase your sins. Also, can we give a special shout out to Hachima, who is currently doing a, actually I think she might have stopped now, but she was doing a hentai art contest and her stream got shut down at least once. Which is very funny. But she did not give a shit. She just started back up, and I was like, alright, let's fucking go. I get on my knees for a priest, I can. Normally that would make sense, but I don't know. I feel like then you just have something that you would regret more. Maybe like a waste throwing the socks away. It is kind of wasteful. Whee! Stop. Kind of rich person, you throw socks away? I should throw socks away, personally. Like, almost all my socks are like fucking ripped right now. Ooh. What the fuck? But I mean, if we're being realistic, right? Wouldn't you just waste the one sock for that use and then just keep using that one? You wouldn't like waste multiple socks on that, would you? That's not what people do, is it? God damn it. While my socks wrap up, pretend to hold it. So they were. I don't know. I don't think we do. I don't think we do. I don't think we do. I cannot fucking aim. Holy shit. Maybe we do repent. You guys have all your sins. I have all my fucking dog shit horrible aim. We all have a lot of things to regret. You have your sins too, don't be shy. I don't know, because like again, like sins imply like shame, you know? Like regret. And I don't stand for that, you know? Do what you will, without shame. Do they? That's embarrassment? What? What do you mean? Sin is something going against divine law? Like God told us bad, so when do we sin? So what you're saying is that it's embarrassment from another source, not even from you. It's not even your embarrassment. It's God's embarrassment. So who cares? Did not think that's the sentence that would break you. I have to be honest with you, I did not understand very well what you were trying to say. Right next to him. How about an animated series where one of my socks becomes pregnant? I mean, Adult Swim exists. They do stupider shit than that. Holy fuck. Wait, I killed him. How? Do 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 do. Where is that sound effect from? Like, all I know is that like one day it just started being a thing. I started hearing it. No shot. No shot, all fist. That is correct. That is how that worked. God damn. God souls is bad, so when we do the bad thing, we sin. Exactly. So what you're saying is like, it's shame from another source. From God. So who cares? I can't aim, bro. God damn. No shame is the naked lady climbing out of the well? No, that's Veronica. She does it every Friday night. Also, I understand the reference. I just wanted to derail that. Ooh, motherfucker. Man, I was shooting someone. That's just rude. I don't know what either of you are talking about. There's a painting of a lady climbing out of a well, and the lady is supposed to be Shame. And she is coming out of her well to punish mankind. She's got a whip and everything. It's like a... Can you say it's a classical painting? I don't know. I feel like every painting... Well, no, I think it is a classical painting. Holy fuck. Good night, girl. I'll see you tomorrow. Sorry we couldn't Skype tonight, but... That's alright. It's truth. Oh, it's truth. I thought, yeah. It's funny how I still understood that, but... I mean, I guess theoretically, there's not a lot of things known for climbing out of walls. My god, what the fuck? Oh, he's dead. He died. In the war. Bruh, sound effect. You got me good. Oh, so seductive. What a pose to die in. On God? How did he not die there? Jesus. My guy running with like a health buff or something. What the dog doing? Playing fetch. Leave him be. Unlucky. Someone on my team keeps going for the power weapons in the map. It's very funny. Motherfucker. Okay, very cool. Bruh, sound effect is a window shopper. It would seem. Teamwork, you know? I punch, my guy does a fucking hammer bat shit. The gravity hammer, funny weapon. Is he off? Okay, no, he's dead. He's not off the map. He's off this realm of existence. Speaking of realms of existence, I saw the Evangelion movie. Very good. Liked it a lot. That's my guy. My bad. Ooh. But yes, good movie. I wish I could aim. I've yet to watch it. It's good. It's good. I have no real criticism of it. Motherfucker. There's no way he lives there. 36 health. I wish I could aim. Unlucky. A very cool poggers moment. He just fell over. Damn. Arthritis gets to you at an early age, it seems. What the dog doing? Oh, I could have dropped on him and killed him with a melee. That would have been funny. Apparently, it does more damage if you're at a higher speed. And it definitely felt like it earlier when I dropped on that guy. Headshot kills gold. Wow. People not going for headshots, it seems. Respectable. Respectable. Who even cares about the head anyway? Obama killed me. It's been an honor, Mr. President. Jeez. Oh, wait, team deathmatch. Let's go. Anyone here have a rank? No. Oh wait, it's Obama. He's in the lobby. Let's go. Ugh. My room did not have time to cool off from yesterday. This is very unfortunate. Oh wait, this isn't Team SWAT. God damn, okay. Let's go. Ooh. What the fuck? God. Oh shit! Obama, no! Shitties are enclosed on naked people, sending them to me. That sounds like something Shinny would do. Motherfucker. It's still so disorienting to use portals for me. God damn it. If I'd hit headshots there, I could have killed that guy sooner. And maybe shot back at the guy that killed me. But alas. Ow. Fair enough. Get what? Yeah, it's not getting porned. What? You're literally like anti-porn. God damn it. You're unporning him. Yeah. God damn it. I still got 2 shots on him though. Someone to finish the job. No way. No way. What the fuck? Huh? Where did he go? That was so bad. No. Time to try another one. Another what? Another sin? What the fuck? What? What? Huh? Obama, no! I could not stop Obama. Let's go! Ooh, let's go! Let's go! Mr. President, get down! Fuck! I sent to our picture to shoot coming to BTS Samus, but they sort of... No. Ah! Wait, did it really? It does that? It's fucked up. Get down, Mr. President! Oh, it's a setting. I see, I see. Damn. Can't be too safe. So true. What the fuck? Bro, they spawn on me like... Or I spawn in already getting shot at. Unbelievable. What the fuck? Obama's cheating. Obama has airstrikes. He's sending in the drones. God damn. Fuck you. I receive my share of dicks and vaginas and no issues. Yeah. Doesn't sound like something Troy would have an issue with. What the fuck? Okay. Oh my god, it's so close. We lose though. Not by much. Speaking of close, can't believe the Glads won. They're going to Hawaii. Hell yeah. I couldn't watch the game yesterday because it was too late for me. I don't remember what time it was, but I was already asleep. But like, damn. They won. Because we're not technically... Oh, that... Yeah. That might have something to do with it. Wait, am I in the game already? Or is this still the lobby? No, it is the lobby. Okay. Okay. I want to admire that awesome gun you're carrying. Wow. Wow. Beautiful. Currently on all news between friends. There's probably a way to disable that though. Probably. Like whatever security settings anything has, like you can usually... Oh my fucking god, it's the same team we're going against. God damn it. Or at least 2 of the guys, I think. Or 3 of the guys. There it is. What a beautiful man. I wonder why I can't hear it anymore. I used to be able to like hear the sound of it playing, but... Holy. That let me right in. Stop that shit. How? No way that should have worked. I knew he had picked it up, but I still didn't know. Didn't react quick enough. Unlucky. Stop that. My guy had a rocket launcher and he died to a melee. Unlucky. Nature is incredible like that sometimes. Motherfucker. And a fuck all. That's pretty good. Some people know fuck nothing. Christ. My god, incredible. Hello, dragon. How's it going? God damn it. Let's try out tonight. Let's fucking go. Good luck. Get them. Eat their ass. Wait, what kind of tryout are we talking about? Maybe don't eat their ass? That might not be like advisable. My god, he was 10 health. Daddy dead. Whee! 25 health. It's so good at being able to see like how much health they had and he died to them. Should probably stop doing this. Wow. That guy has some magnets on him. Wait, what do you mean no ammo? Fuck. Also, will most likely be illegal? That is a good point. A good point. Don't do it. Go on a no-ass diet. Sometimes I put portals just so that other people don't like portal into that space, you know? Not even necessarily because I'm gonna use them. Jesus Christ. What the fuck, dude? Fair enough. I don't super like playing mid and stuff because going from low round to high round is so dangerous. Yeah, that makes sense. I understand some of the things you're saying. Also, the other day I found out that that's like a pit and you die if you fall in it. I didn't know that until I died in it. I always wondered like, this is a funny looking space that's like weird and like misty. No shot. 2 health. He died with 2 health. Unbelievable. Incredible feats of video gaming. Not you, of course not. Of course not. Of course not. Surely. I have motion sickness. Oh, they're all there. I see. Motherfucker! Oh. What? Did he shoot me through like one of these little gaps there? Holy shit. It's like I couldn't see him anymore. And yet. Ah! Ah! Unlucky. But yes, I do believe some of these, if not all, but some of these gentlemen are grouped up together. Because we've played against them. Or at least I'm seeing some familiar names that we just played against as well. So, perhaps, playing against a grouped number of gamers, which is a bit of a disadvantage. Which is fine, you know. Like I said somewhere earlier, that was definitely not on the stream. Or was it? When did I say that? Oh, it's on someone else's stream. I found a VTuber playing Splitgate earlier. She seemed pretty cool actually. Though she did get tired of it and went to play Team Fortress 2 afterwards. I can actually link you though, hold on. Let's see. It was Rihanna. Wow. Big fan of her work. Rihanna, yes, the VTuber. Has 2 weeks have been tired. Jesus. I mean, hey. I hope that the tryouts, you know, like the people. Oh my god, I fucking hate this map. The people who you're trying out for have some sense in their heads and accept you because they would be lucky to have you on their team. Anyway, what was I saying? Oh yeah, real gamers, they don't talk. They don't communicate like verbally. They communicate telepathically and through emote spam inside of the game. In-game emote spam. That's the word. Did I not beat them up for you? Exactly. As it should be. God damn it. Wait, what are we doing? Oh, King of the Hill. Woo! Woo! Look at the flick of the wrist. Shit. Unlucky. Why is this guy named like TM Mercules? Why is TM at the beginning of the word? It's a bit sus. A bit sussy baka of him, you know? My god. Have a good chance for the team tonight, which should be my preferred choice to shop for 60. Think enough for 3 of them? Hell yeah. Let's fucking go. My hill now. I hear the steppies. Alas, I cannot aim. Oh god. I will stand ground, stand guard, stand stiff. Damn it. There's 2 of them shooting at me, and 1 of them killed me with a sniper. Anyway, though, you're gonna do it, Dragon. Some people try out, but you succeed in. What the fuck? That guy alive? No. I hate this. I fucking hate this map. It's this and the other one. What's it called? High Wind? Fuck these maps. So cringe. Woo! Nice. Gotta respect that. Gotta respect that. Fuck. Wait, what? Who killed me with a shotgun? Wasn't that guy, right? He was like way too far. I hope. Sorry. What the fuck was that? Oh god. Stop. That is an individual. It literally is faster to just shoot it, like punch twice. Fucking weird. Wow! Oh! Wait, no. Okay, it wasn't me that killed him. I was like, no way. I missed every single one of those shots. No, my team is dying. They need help. No. No, fuck. There were two of them. Hello, Golf. How's it going? Oh my god, I taught these people how to punch. What have I done? God damn it. So you turn off the announcer voice? Yes, yes. I think it was TTB that raised some concerns about it at some point. I was like, yeah, you're right. It is kind of repetitive. Oh, hello. Wait, there was a shotgun right there I could have taken. Who needs a shotgun anyway? Okay, well, perhaps it would have been good there. I'm glad to hear that. I'm doing great. I woke up with a fucking headache, and I had it for most of my morning, but we're chilling now. Goodbye. Oh god. Oh god. Okay. Yeah, it does get a little bit old. It does get a little bit old to hear it over and over. No judgment, you know, some people might like it. That's fine. Yeah. Anyway, if you think about it, ducks are like the secret agents, operatives, I believe. And they are not deserving of your trust. Hello? Oh my god. Holy shit. Oh. It's like this place has a fucking rash. All we see is like fucking bruises opening up. The portals opening everywhere, right? It's like alien invasion type beat. It's a hive. Fuck. Stop. Stop coming. Are you good? What the fuck? No shit. Oh fuck. Now in terms of people send me dick and vagina pics. There you go. I feel like we're a bit a few perhaps a few minutes past that particular conversation topic, but you know, better late than never, you know. Oh Jesus. This is a long con so I get to the point where I with my nudes. Gotcha. Sorry I was in a call. No worries. Welcome back. Looking very handsome today, Troy. I think it's really cute how the executable like window for this game still says Portal Wars. You know? That adds a little something to it. Oh, we're still in the waiting area. I see. Never mind. Some of all this shooter game. You know, it was to keep the leaks on the wraps. You know, they had to call it something like that. Perfectly understandable. Perfectly understandable. Ranked team deathmatch in Olympus. Fuck. Why does it have to be Olympus? And why do we have to be against Fartmaster 11? That's not good, man. There's gonna be a guy. I hit 2 shots on that guy. Little napkin is killing everyone. My god. It was because of me. I could not stop him. I was not powerful enough to stop Little Napkin before he could pick up the shotgun. Very unfortunate. Little Napkin is going fucking ham. He's wiping us all out. Get it? Funny? Because his name is Little Napkin. He's wiping. Funny. Is he actually just like... Okay, I see. I see. I see. I see. I was really expecting Fartmaster 11 to be the one doing all the killing, but it looks like Little Napkin is taking the lead. Terrific performance, if I should say so myself. What the fuck? Little Napkin, come back here. Wait, did he die? He died! Little Napkin down. Shit. Wait, that was a different guy. Oh no! I was too slow. He's going under. Oh my god. Of course. Of course he would. Crunch. Alright, he did it once with the shotgun. Is he gonna go to another spree? But this time with a rocket launcher. He might. Hello. He did not, actually. Wow! Hello, Paul. How's it going? Oh dear. I wish I could aim. He was 1 HP, literally. What the fuck? God damn. It would be so cool if I knew how to aim. Oh god, I fucked this up. Okay. Okay. Bought a new Lappy, let's go! Is it good? I would assume so, if you bought a new one. Be kind of weird if you're like, hey, bought a new laptop. Is it good? No, it's a piece of shit. But I still love it. Ooh, yeah. I'm stuck bottom. No shot. I don't think he knew he typed that into the match chat. Did someone save him though? That's so cute. They sent a portal down for him. Oh fuck. Slight when it's 364. Wait, a laptop we're talking about? That sounds like a phone. Wow. Good night, Fartmaster. It's been real. The fuck did he go? Ooh. Yeah. Good night, Fartmaster. Why did every time I try to say this guy's name, I mispronounce it in a different way? Kind of fascinating. he keeps typing into the match chat. I feel like at this point he knows and he's just trolling. My god. Can you remove unused portals, please? Yes, I can do that. I don't have any up. Seems... Oh! No shot, okay. What the fuck? Okay. Fair enough. You're a phone? Knee. Yes, true. So true. I am. How did you know? I thought my cover was perfect. Motherfucker, stop with that shit, man. Christ. Oh! He's chasing me. Damn. Little Napkin is ruthless, dude. Time for a new phone cover? Just use a microphone. Like, come on. What? Oh dear, someone has the funny gun. Oh, okay. It was him. He had the funny gun. The Napkin himself. Oh my god. Yes, another funny gun. Oh shit. Game over. Unfortunate. We won. No, we were defeated. But that's okay. We take the L. And if we take another one, we can make a square like this, you know, because it's like 2 L's. We can make it into a square, like, cute. Geometry is beautiful. Just like you guys. Actually, no, not just like you guys. You guys are more beautiful than geometry. But in a similar fashion to you guys, perhaps. That's better to say. If you feel froggy, then jump. I do feel froggy, you know? I feel for him. It's a fucked up life, man. Also, hello, Deathcore. What's up? How are you doing today? Yeah, but I drag the average down to just beautiful. Untrue. You lift the average. This guy's name is Nicotus Cage. That sounds like a torture device. Mowgli, not true. You guys are all beautiful. I make the rules and I say so. I'm getting Zelda next week. Let's go. There's a new... Wait, is it a new Zelda game? I think I saw Panda playing something recently, and I think it was new. Oh, fuck up some goblins in Breath of the Wild. Let's fucking go! Hell yeah. The driving service is the reference. Yes, Troy is beautiful. So is Shinny. Everyone here is beautiful. Hill control. Hill detested. Yeah. I'll distribute justice for all the women and goblins. You know what? That's a good motivation. That's a good motivation. Fellow lady is the least I could do. Honestly, like I haven't seen Goblin Slayer, but I've heard some things, and I think it seems like a human thing to do, you know? I don't know what's happening. I've seen one person. What the fuck? Okay. Are we just killing everyone? And by we, I mean my team, because I sure am not. I see a person, I die. It's that simple. I close my eyes and seize it. I clench my fist and beat it. I light my torch and burn it. Oh, I am the shots I miss. I was about my Switch dock when I get seldom to the big handheld because I'm playing relax in my bed. That sounds like a good time. Sometimes I forget you can like, that is a way you can play games, you know? Oh shit. Okay. Mr. Clean. No. Isn't that like a real thing? Isn't that like the guy? Is his name Mr. Clean? You know, like the bald guy? Phil Collins? The guy who does the cleaning? Shit. Oh my god, I can't hit a fucking shot. My team is literally made of professional video game enthusiasts. I also own Breath of the Wild, but I haven't started. I don't even have a Switch. I would never buy a Switch. Okay, there are some circumstances that could perhaps persuade me into buying a Switch, but as it stands, the circumstances do not apply. What the fuck? Wait, where was he? Oh my god. Okay. What the fuck? Aw. Your niece designed your island. That's cute. Alright. Yeah. Okay. He was 12 health. Damn. Best Splitgate player NA. God damn. I'm so good. I'm invading the leaderboards of a region I'm not in. Incredible. Goodbye, Mr. Clean. That was very dirty of you, I have to say. Hi Peng, also. Hello. How's it going? What? What region you're playing on? Europe. That is where I am from. Wait, what's happening here? Virtual consoles, everyone that I mean, there's Switch, as in, you know, when people are not. Wait, oh, how do you explain that? It's like you have tops, you have bottoms, and then you have like the switches who, you know, switch between the two, right? Reverse. Wait. But it's interchangeable terms, right? You can still say both. Okay, that was smart. Yeah, okay. I just woke up. Good morning. How did you sleep? It's my first time looking so early. I need to play the other. I don't think you do. From my very limited knowledge of Zelda, which is not a lot because I also played only a little bit of one. I think all Zelda games are like independent. Oh yeah. All right. Sounds like a baby. Hell yeah. Hell yeah. I know Zelda's a good health dude that beats up monsters. I have to say that that's about the same as my understanding of it. That's all I got. That's all I got. It's to be a cute pink-haired non-binary elf. They ruined them? Wait, really? Jesus. How long ago was that? I don't think I've ever seen that iteration. Wait, did it ever like come through in a game? Or Oh, what the fuck is that? There's a fish. Okay, he's gone. Pink hair, some anime shit I'm down for. Hell yes. Oh, speaking of pink hair, I don't know if actually there's a VTuber who is doing tomorrow, unless it goes south again because of internet problems, because that's what happened last Friday. Last Friday, this VTuber was going to do a marathon where you can pay him to draw Ryamu. And I think he did it, but his internet like shit the bed, so he had to cut it early. So he's doing it again. He is doing it again tomorrow. And it's to raise funds so that he can buy Ryamu statues. So, you know, I gotta respect the hustle. For Zella, who's Link? Link's the oh my god. Link's the blonde guy. Ah, unlucky. Link is long? So true. Life comes full circle. Do you? There should be a full stop between those two sentences, you know? Life comes full circle. Full stop. Do you? Oh my god. That guy had some moves. Did you see that? Is the game called Legend of Zelda now? If the game's about Link? Is it though? I don't think the game is about Link. I think Link's just the guy you play as. Yeah, much, dude, that's what I'm saying. This guy's got the most ripped knees in history. That guy like tries to jump. He goes into orbit. He's fucking ripped. Okay, true. And in real life, his pinky has a six-pack. True. I thought his name was Zelda, not gonna lie. I think that's everyone makes that mistake at some point. It used to be kind of a meme, I'm pretty sure. Do you have aim assist resumed? My aim is not accurate, but unless you're being sarcastic, in which case, yes, yes, my aim's just really that good. I don't know if there's aim assist. It feels like it sometimes, though. Like sometimes you just like fling your mouse in the general direction of where someone is, and somehow it just hits a shot there. That wasn't one of those situations. Are you sure? Are you sure? It really seems like it. Fuck. Oh, they didn't finish capping. Funny. You shoot someone midair and kill them? You're trying to say... I mean, shooting someone midair is, like, easy. In most games, at least. Because, like, typically, when someone is in the air, they are in what is called a predictable movement pattern. So, like, you already know, like, how they're moving and where they're going. They're making it easier for you to shoot at. Someone knows because they're moving in a linear motion? Yeah. Ooh. What the fuck did he just do there? Okay. See? Aim dog shit. Bad. It is hard for console? It should be easier like on any platform. Oh, yeah, I thought my guy was pushing that. My bad. Let me plug my controller real quick. I'm about to go crazy. You're turning on the aimbot. Okay, okay. Okay, Troy. Okay. 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 I don't know where I'm going. Guess I'm capping. John Cena! Da, 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 da. Da, 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 da. Oh my god. If I could aim, I would have killed that guy sooner, and I would have been able to maybe kill the second guy before the third one killed me. But alas, I cannot aim, so, you know. I barely killed the one guy. And then the second guy and the third guy performed the teamwork and executed me together. Beautiful. My god. John Cena's in the new Suicide. Wait, really? I didn't know that. That's kind of cool. That's probably why Grim liked it, you know? Because John Cena was there. Oh my god. They're beautiful. They're like synchronized swimmers. They're going in pairs. Fuck, wait. Did I run out of ammo? Did I switch my weapon? What the fuck? Yeah, yeet. Hello. It isn't funny in blockers? I don't know what that is. I don't watch movies, I'm sorry. This is like he's playing himself. Maybe he is playing himself by agreeing to do all those movies, you know? Cock blockers was so much funnier than it had a right to be. Damn. I'll have to take your word on that. Ooh. It's not too late to take back what you said about me having, like, good aim. Splitgate is what Halo should have been? I mean... I think when the new Halo comes out, I'm going to enjoy more than Splitgate. Because by the looks of it already, even in the state that it's in right now, it already looks like it's gonna be really fun. I'll teach you aim, Shanzi. Don't worry, Peng. I'm a lost cause. Don't worry about it. As a console player who makes Warzone, you have better aim than me. I'm honored that you would say that, you know, it's flattering. All Lucas, I run around with a shotgun is valid if it works, you know. I can do good here with a shot. Maybe not, actually. Let's not think about this game just earlier when I tried to shoot the guy with the shotgun and I shot him 3 times and I couldn't kill him. I mean, in my defense, that was like an Olympic gymnast who had like a machine like motor in place of a knee. But still. Apex. This power, there's more mechanics in the game, so you die faster, give it the illusion that people are trying harder. Are there more mechanics? Yeah, I guess so. I don't know. I do not think I'll be playing a BR again too soon. Wait, what is... Oh, this is Team Deathmatch. Okay. What the fuck? It literally is faster to just punch twice. Incredible. What? No! Oh my god! Oh shit! Oh shit! Oh my god, I'm so scared. Fuck, dude. Thank you. Wait, can I go in? Motherfucker. Man. For a moment. Where is everyone? Dude, what? Hello? I'm sorry guys, I'm being really distracted right now. A BR, wait, we're talking about Hyperscape? Hyperscape was good, I like that. Hyperscape and Spellbreak were probably the most fun I had in BRs. Like realistically speaking, I should probably like get out of here. Oh, he's flying. Oh dear. Okay, on the other side too. Is Spellbreak still alive? Yeah. It has a non-BR mode now, which is even better. Why is this guy up here? Like, actually, why is he up there? And also, how did he get up there? What the fuck? Good night. Whoa. Oh, fuck. Unlucky. Unlucky. I'm gonna sing indecipherable things in the voice in the team chat or mash chat or whatever the fuck in the funny chat. Ooh. Damn. PUBG is a dinosaur? Yes. Wait, no. No, it's not the blueprint. The blueprint was Minecraft Battle Royale. I think. Was that the earliest? I think that might have been like the earliest implementation of like the idea of a battle royale. Okay. You never want to be first in the tech games industry? Damn. Is that because nice guys finish? I'm not gonna finish that. Incredible. 7 health. Incredible. I will peg you. I feel like this is becoming a trademark deathcore thread. The peg. You look like a metalhead. No, I'm not. That's funny though. I guess the hair kind of probably does that now, maybe a little bit. I can understand that. But no, I'm not a metalhead. You're trying to tell me you never listen to metal or hardcore? Not willingly. Like at gunpoint, I think I did. That was us the hair more the grim demeanor towards life. I don't have a grim demeanor towards life. What? Hardcore, yes, that I am. That I am. That I definitely am, for sure. I feel like that's almost an invitation for me to play. Actually, you know what? I think I will. Hold on. Because if I were to like try to explain like what kind of music I like to listen to, it never really works because I don't know how to like list it. So I'll just play it. This is my Spotify likes, which is not everything I listen to, because some stuff isn't on Spotify. But I don't know what's gonna happen. Like, this playlist sometimes goes from like death grips to tiny little Adientum by Shibayan Records. I don't think that's how you say that actually, but anyway, we're starting off with weeb stuff, so that's great. Oh wait, I should try to add the image cover. Hold on. Oh, and I forgot to actually start this. 1 second. Stream stuff, tuna. There we go. Oh, beautiful. Excellent. Hello, Miku. What's up? Yeah, this isn't intrusive at all. You can barely see that, but you know, fuck it. Here, this kind of works. Sorry, can I add a kink? Yes. And if it's something that you can't add, we'll just remove it. A kink is kissing Shinny. You do need his consent for that. We define my work from home office mouse doesn't work very well on my This music is made for degenerates. Hell yes. Hell yes. We go again. Actually, wait, let me play SWAT again. Helps to alternate. Because I do enjoy to play SWAT more. But I don't know. I like to mix it up, I guess. Maybe. Possibly. It is working, gotcha. There we go, okay. That's kind of alright. Alright. Sorry, I love you, but okay. Respectable. No worries. Fuck no, don't play Olympus. Thank you. Thank you. Oh my god, no, okay.
Go Olympus, go Olympus.
Fuck off, no. Don't go Olympus. Cringe. Fuck. We might go Olympus, no. Yes.
What the fucking fuck?
Did you guys hear that? Oh hey. Wait, if you still haven't muted, you can see when the song is gonna change, because you can see the title of it down there. They really wanted Olympus. They really did. They really did. And I got Olympus because they restored his mic. I don't know. Oh man. Oh man. Oh, okay. Never mind. I got him. Aimbot mouse? What? Oh, I still got one. Let's go. Ah. My bad. Selling as we can on a string at a moment. Sweetie still people left. True. My aim really isn't good. What is this? Fuck. A PC gamer guys will press a that might be a good point. If you're like only used to seeing console aim, PC definitely looks a bit stranger. Oh my god. See, that's not good. That's not good. How strange it looks in human. It's just like faster. What the fuck, dude? I'll have to play some League. Good luck with the games. Thank you, Golf. You too. Thank you for stopping by. Dude, can I, like, not spawn into the line of sight of someone? That would be great. Is that a disable crossplay if a game has it? Yeah. Which is funny because a lot of people will, like, a lot of PC players will disable crossplay for the same reason, but because they feel like console players have an unfair advantage because of auto aim. Or not auto aim, like aim assist. What the fuck? Oh. This is a bra momento numero dos. Hello. A person, let's go. Man. Yeah. Can I send link? I think so. Give it a try. I don't think there's a filter for that in the channel. Wait, this is 3 Weeb songs in a row now. Which, you know, it's not that surprising, but... No, wait, it is on shuffle, because they wouldn't be in this order. Sounds to make me go back. I'm sorry. I wish I could tell you something more, assuming you're a metalhead yourself. I can't really say that it's gonna get better because, yeah. What the what is that? I just went into the portal together. Let's make my suicidal thoughts go up. How? How? Please elaborate on that. Let's bit of this. Human aimbot. Best controller player. Weeb's songs physically hurt me. Why? Why? Actually, no, I can kind of understand that. I used to be the same way. Then I started, like, ironically getting into Weeb stuff. And then it wasn't ironic anymore. Takes time to get cracked, for sure. For sure. It's like that for, you know, everything. Okay, let's see. Let's see how many times I have to, like, skip a song until we don't get to something weeb. Okay, that wasn't that long. That wasn't that long. Jesus. Man, didn't react in time. The fuck? Oh, that guy's lost. Did you see that? El capitano. Oh, captain, my captain. Oh shit, he got me. Oh. Funny. Unlucky. I don't wanna avoid you. Wait, is that Mortal Kombat? Is that what the MK stands for? Oh Jesus. I am bot. Definitely not. But I'm flattered. I'll still accept the compliment. Ow. Mortal Kombat 10, got you. I'm a Johnny main. Johnny. Is that the guy with the sunglasses? The one that looks like really out of place? Johnny Cage, gotcha. Does it do have some good aims? Sometimes, maybe. Is this music better for you, Death? Because this is gonna, well, I wanted to say this is like as good as it's gonna get, but you might like some other stuff here better. You might like Death Grips, maybe. Okay, we're back to the weep shit, sorry. Here, let's play again. Okay, that's good. Okay. This isn't... Okay, it's a little bit weeb. Kinda. Oh, okay. What the fuck is your playlist? Listen, it's just my liked songs. Okay, but alright. This is technically still weeb. This is a Japanese producer, so hold on. Actually, no, let me still stay in SWAT. Let's see. No, that's also a Japanese producer. This is literally an anime opening. This is Aesop Rock again. Can we... Okay. I don't know who said that, but true. Yeah, okay. Actually, no, I don't want to listen to this. This is Azap Rock again. This is literally V2. Okay, this is fine. We can play this. But I have metalhead hair. It's Corona, man. It's fucking quarantine. I started growing it out and I was like, actually, this is kind of lit. That's literally it, because I used to cut my hair more out of necessity. Like, I didn't really like how my hair looked when it was cut. But I did it just for, like, maintenance reasons, I guess. And then quarantine was an excuse to stop cutting it. But then I just realized I liked it. So I just kept growing it out. Funny. Ooh, okay. Didn't react quickly enough. Unlucky. Damn it, they don't miss me. Damn. Why though? My Overwatch League starts up this week. Let's go! Jesus. That guy did even worse than me. Don't want all the content. Let's go! No, no, stop. I don't. I hope you win. I hope you 1v6 win every game. Hater split. What the fuck? Man, it's not true. Okay, alright. My perception got so confused because I wasn't expecting to see like 2 people there. Oh, pass. The faces I don't miss, they don't miss me. Sensation of my own mental patient out of this. I left free. Put me on the medication out of space and said to me. Say it's a bit amazing, so now I'm trying to get a favor and forgive me. My god. She's on control. Let's go. Pro controller gamers. Alright, what are we gonna get next? Okay, this isn't weeb stuff. I mean, there's Japanese characters in his name, but he's not. Well, okay, I think he is a weeb, but the music isn't weeb stuff. Ooh, okay. Yes, my friend, take the bullet for me. Your sacrifice was not in vain. Oh my god. I still got him. Unlucky. They got partner assist. Let's consider the go count. Oh, nice. Jesus Christ. Oh my god, that guy just went sicko mode. Oh, hello. There's 3 different podcasts, like streams. Damn. They're pumping out stuff. Let's go. Yeah. Did not expect that. No. Defeat. Okay. Is this sweep stuff? Can we consider this sweep stuff? I mean, yeah, it is Vocaloid. That is kind of weep stuff, I guess. This isn't weep stuff. Epic Dennis 11. God damn. An inspiring name, to be sure. Thought I was gonna say these nuts. That would have been thinking so far ahead, because this album is from like 2000, I think. Actually, maybe even before that. Ooh. Ugh. The enemy team appear to be doing a little bit of killing. Okay, perhaps a large amount of killing. Wait, do we have the Mothman UK? We do. That's so funny. Stop. Oh my god. Why would you... Okay. Alright. Sure. Man. Oh my god. I wish I could aim. Wait, what? What was that? No way you live. Okay. Jesus. It's kind of weird of him to re-peek that, but I would have done the same, I don't think. Pikuta shkara. My goodness, sorry, that's so rude of me. Oh no! Oh shit! So I think there are 2 Portuguese players here in a duo. I will use my powers of prediction to predict this. Pikutisch and Neutronisch. That definitely sounds like a Portuguese pair. Dude, what is that? Oh my god, okay. Oh, I see. The enemy team is doing very good. And they're doing weird shit like holding corners with portals. Oh my god, Jesus. What was that? Wait, what? I didn't teabag. I literally did. What? I don't think I ever crouched that game. What the fuck? Game broken. Miss your Outer Wilds ending? Don't worry. I didn't end. I actually didn't end it. I spent the entire stream not like... There was no progress, literally. We did not do jack shit, but I think next Friday I'll be able to because I figured out how to get to the Ash Twin project. So, assuming that's the last thing I have to do, that will be the ending. Sorry, also. I promise I don't do it on purpose to like bait people. I'm just legitimately that stupid. Okay, let's keep trying to find non-weep stuff here. Okay, but it's like, it's either... I mean, what can I do, you know? It's not weep stuff. Yes, it's more Aesop rock, but it's not weep stuff, you know? But yes, I figured out how to get to the Ash Twin project. So, very excited to, like, see how that goes on Friday. And hopefully it'll be the last. Alright, that was to get us some stuff. Oh, yes. Yes, we literally didn't see anything on Friday. It's legitimately like 3 hours of wasting my time. I did go to the vessel and input the coordinates, but nothing happened. Because that was one thing that I didn't try to do before. But yeah, nothing happened. I didn't think nothing would happen either because the power core was like fucked or whatever. But yes, at least we tried it. What the fuck, man? Let me kill shit. I said let me kill shit, not let me die. Cringe. Oh, also, Bug, if you missed it, there's a command now that links to links directly to a playlist of all the Outer Wilds VODs, including the one from last Friday. Although, probably skip that one, because I'm not joking when I say nothing happened. But yes, if you type, I think it's Outer VODs, you get a link directly. Yeah. Close. Thank you, Troy. There you go. Bit below. It's a looped playlist. Wait. Can you make playlists up? I thought that was like a setting from the viewer's side. First try, no death. So true. So true. God damn. I'm doing awful these last two games. What the fuck? Oh, looped, cause I gotcha. Okay. Shouldn't have tried to hit someone when I already had someone else shooting at me, but, you know. We multitask. God damn. Zodiac boy. Get bit by the house. Get bit by the crowd. Oh my god, wait. It's this guy, he's killing everyone. And he doesn't die. That's a real gamer right there. No shot. Okay. So is this a small conversation? I mean, you know, I don't think it's fair to call it a small game. But I mean, in a lot of ways it is. Physically small. Okay, this is more weep stuff. This isn't weep stuff. Wait, actually, let's not play that one. I can't skip this. I'm sorry. It is weep stuff, but I'm not gonna skip this. This is good. You guys should stream Aki's music. Or buy it. Small like... Exactly, not small at all. That's a good comparison there, Troy. Very good. Ugh. I was gonna say something, I forgot. But yeah. Small physically. Because all the planets are so tiny. And in theory, you can complete it really quickly. I think. I don't know exactly what's the end purpose. But in theory, you can complete it within 22 minutes, I'm assuming. All at the same time, but watch out. Oh. That guy should have been dead in like a second. And instead it took me an hour to kill him. Okay. I still don't know for sure, like, how do you get on the railgun spawn? Oh, okay. Like, I think you have to be launched up there. Like, from one of those. But from where do you enter with enough momentum? Like here? Oh, okay, that is enough, actually. I see. Oh. Fair enough. Makes sense. They're doing it too. For no reason, because there's no railgun. Ooh. What the fuck? Wow. Wait, I still got him? Incredible. That shouldn't have worked. Dude, I keep thinking those like structures there are enemies. It happens to me so much in this map. Yeah. Wait, hello? 35. No shot. 42. Nice. What does that get you? I can't remember. Okay, this is more weep stuff. Yeah, that's... Okay, that's not weep stuff. You know? This isn't weep stuff. And it's not Aesop Rock. Let's go! He was 19 health, okay. I see. What happens on pain? On pain. Oh, wait, pain. Oh! Pain is where... wait, so you've redeemed pain before, right, Troy? Is pain 50? Oh, hello. I killed this guy on the knees. The sculpture was 50k? Damn. What a waste. I'm sorry. I'm sorry that you wasted your points like that. So when you redeem pain, what happens is I will recreate an image of your choice, typically an image of you, in an unspecified method. See, for Troy, last time when Troy redeemed, what I did was I took his photo and I tried to like sculpt it in 3D. The problem is I don't know how to sculpt in 3D, so it wasn't very good. It wasn't very good. It typically won't be, honestly, unless I do something that by nature recreates the image. So it's not cockable torture. I don't think that would comply with Twitch TOS. I would need to be on a different website to do that, but is perfect? You are perfect. You were perfect, and you still are. You know, I'm actually thinking Wednesday I might do a Blender stream, because I feel like it. I considered doing it today as well, but I needed to like not. I needed to play like a game because I have not been doing that a lot. My brain gets a little bit tired. I need to like get Pinocchio P stuff out of here. Like, I don't know what happened, but like Pinocchio P's music has become like a little bit grating for me. Okay. What was I saying? Oh yeah, I might do a Blender stream on Wednesday. Blender's that... No. God fucking damn it. No, Blender. Wait, are you like legit asking, or are you just making a joke? Let's make it. Okay, gotcha. What else? Oh, okay. So you were asking. Blender is a open source 3D open source 3D package, which does basically everything from the 3D pipeline, from modeling to sculpting, texturing, compositing, rendering, animation. It even has video editing now. Open source, yes. It is. Legitimately, Blender is like one of the best things I've used and know of. It's so good. And the fact that it's open source and free and like it's unreal. It's Unreal. Actually, no, it's not Unreal. Unreal is a different software, which is also pretty good. But it's besides the point. OBS cries in the corner. Wait, why? Provides a great. Yes. 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 Mm-hmm. Very good. And it is a different thing, but it's also free, right? I don't think it's open source, but it's free, I think. OBS is open source too. Well, yeah. And it's good, but Blender's Blender. Blender made me like enjoy doing animation curves. On every other software I've used, animation curves are pain. The interface for working with them is fucking god awful. In Fusion, it's a little bit tolerable. In After Effects, absolutely fuck off. But in Blender, holy shit, it's fun. It's like I like animating in Blender. It's so cool. Does this make them competing products? Yeah, exactly. The fuck? Say curves and results are actually pretty nice. Yes. Yes. I did After Effects in Premiere, like, but absolutely not. But in DaVinci they're good. But in Blender, like that's the thing. In DaVinci, they're tolerable. Like, they're okay. But in Blender, they're fun. It really is. It's so good. Blender's so good. And what's really cool for me personally, because I'm a very lazy person, is that it makes it so easy to make something that looks really great. Let's just have to spend 50 million or better. Let's go. Say Blender has a video editor now? Yes. Yes. It does. I don't think, like... I mean, I've actually personally never used it. But you know what? Hold on. This isn't weeb shit, technically. Yeah, I have not used the Blender video editor. I would assume it's for like very simple stuff, like to put together scenes and shit. I think you have to go through it if you want to work with audio stuff. Like importing in an audio clip or something. Yeah, let me open it up. What's your views on Steam Deck and about less reliance on Windows for games? I can't really speak on OS. That is call it. Yeah, it was definitely a missed opportunity to call it a Game Boy. You know. I think open source is cool, but I'm so fucking stupid. You put Linux in front of me, I will cry. I don't know how it works. I don't know anything about it. But I mean, you know, Pog, that's cool. I like the idea of having like a portable PC. Makes us confused once it gets support. I'm leaving Windows so fast. Seem quite. You are a very complex person, Troy. It's true. It's true. Oops. Let me turn down my DPI switch thing. Look, Dragon. This is Blender. Okay. This is Blender. All right. These are cubes. Okay. Let's get this. Those are rectangular prisms. Yeah, cubes. That's what I said. Shit. There we go. Wow. Let's put some text here, okay? Where does that happen? Look at this. Isn't this beautiful? Isn't this beautiful? Look how quick it was to do. Look, let's change this up. I don't need to be here. Like, there's all these different workspaces, but in theory, you can do everything in this one. It's just that these are arranged better to do other stuff. I don't know how this is different from other 3D modeling programs. Well, for one thing, other 3D modeling programs are very slow. But that has to do with the fact that we're not using the real engine. Like, there's two rendering engines in Blender, right? Two main ones. There's Eevee and there's Cycles. Eevee is kind of like the fake one. It fakes a lot of the things that it does, whereas Cycles is like physically accurate. It's the ray tracing shit, you know? Cycles is still relatively fast. I might lag though if I do this because it runs on GPU and I'm streaming. So I'm sorry in advance. Oh, it also does this sometimes. That's true. But yeah, that's one thing. kind of hardware acceleration support does it have? Yeah, it can render on GPU. Shit. It's like an RTX 2. I don't remember. Shit. Hold on. I don't know why it does this sometimes. Render kernel shit. I don't even know what it means, honestly. But yeah, cycles can be GPU accelerated. And they're actually, did I just open the same shit twice? Holy fuck, I'm stupid. Okay, that's not it. God damn. Experience, there we go. He doesn't want to do cycles right now, sorry. Actually, it wants to crash. That also happens. Very rarely though. For me personally, maybe it's because I don't know a lot of like really wild shit. But it actually just opened device manager. This is, I could do that, but I'm already here now. 2060, there we go. Yeah, RTX 2060. Sorry about this. Yeah, I don't usually crash on it, to be honest with you. Because I tend to do very simple stuff. I do motion graphics, generally. So I never do like a lot of like modeling and shit. But yeah, like I think it's really cool. Oh, if you can hit Control Shift Escape next to go to the Performance tab, you can see all your hardware. Wait. Oh, this also, right, this also tells me the GPU. I forgot about that. Yeah, there it is. Pog, thank you. I forgot that was there. So these shortcuts, I feel that. I feel that. What was I doing? I forgot what I was doing. Oh yeah, I remembered. I just wanted to show Bloom because Bloom is so fun. You just like go over here, and because this is Eevee, it has this like filter enabled by default, this Bloom filter, which means you can just like make shit like glow like this, and it's just so pretty. Environment controls? Environment? What do you mean? Oh, to like navigate the program? Because I agree, yeah. That's honestly like, that's why I like the keyframes so much. Like all that shit that I was saying about keyframes is a little because the way that keyframes, the curves are navigated. Oh, you can take environmental images and make a lighting. Wait, an HDRI? But you still have to like build it, right? Can you do an HDRI just from like a normal picture? Because I always assumed you needed to have like the multiple exposure passes and shit. Oh yeah, and then you also have, hold on. Ah, whew. Hold on. This is like one of the coolest things also. So they relatively recently, they added this feature, right? Called geometry nodes. Now, nodes are like a thing that is pretty popular in a like video editing and like compositing context, because people like to use nodes, you know. You can do it, just doesn't work as well. Fair enough. So analysis of that, but somehow did it. That is pretty cool. I didn't know that. I thought you always needed like a bunch of like prep to be able to do an HDRI. But yeah, basically the thing about nodes, right? You can use them in shading, and you can use them in compositing, but now you can use them for geometry shit. And nodes just make things so modular and like procedural that it's just so cool. Like, okay, we have this grid. It has all these vertices and shit, right? We're gonna go into here. Just gonna. Again, we don't need to have specific workspaces. Like if I wanted to, I could just like expand this here and change this to be the or is it the geometry node editor? I could just do that as well. Any part of the UI can be like scaled and like replaced. If you don't want this to be a scene collection, you can make it be anything else. You can make this be fucking a text editor. Really? I didn't know that. You could put a shader editor here, you know, like the shit that we're looking at here. It's here now. It's here on the top right. But yeah, if we go here and we go like point instance here and make this be the sphere, now every single one of these vertices on the grid is rendered as one of those spheres. Scale. Let's make them all smaller. Wow, some balls. Wow. Wow. And you have like so much you can do here. Like people who are smart can do so much shit with geometry nodes. It's like ridiculous. People literally make like flowers out of this shit. It's incredible. You can take a panel and straight up just drag it to another monitor as a preview. I didn't know that. Wait, like, oh. Wait, how? Hold shift and drag from the, oh, okay. Hold shift and drag from top of the window. Wait, you're talking about these, right? Or, oh, the corner above up. Oh, I get it. I see. Oh, wow. Yo! I didn't know that. Thank you. That is a really good tip. Too much recursion, my brain broke. I don't know what that means. But yeah, geometry nodes are sick. I can't really get into like some of the stuff that you can do. Can I? Wait. I don't think I can. Wait, let me see if I can remember how to do that vertex proximity thing. Maybe. This is a memory exercise for me, because I really don't remember this shit. I'm back. Listening to Doja Cat always makes me feel like a... Let's return to our exercise then. Okay. Can we... Hey, this isn't weep stuff, and it's not Aesop Rock. Let's go. Also, welcome back. Okay, wait, let me see. I think I need oh wait, did I need to paint stuff here? Like weight paint? I don't want to do that. That's boring. I don't want to do that now. Never mind. Fuck this. I'll just do this instead. I also wanted to show you guys this. Because like, okay, geometry nodes are technically a modifier in this object, right? Which means you can add other modifiers before and after. So if you come here and you go like displays, but move it above. only one. Is your name related to the Marvel character who is the god of No. No. Sorry. It is stolen from a book, but it's not Marvel related. Okay, see? Look. Let me just think. There we go. See, now what's happening is the original mesh, which was that grid, we can disable this temporarily, right? And you can see like the mesh is still here, right? And it's being affected by this deform modifier, which basically takes like a map and deforms stuff based on the map or whatever. You can put an image here if you want. It can actually, wait, let's do that. That would be funny, I think. Let me see. Stick this picture of, oh my god, Grim. Hello. Ha. 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 Sorry. Hi Grim. Thank you for the raid. What's up? Welcome everyone. Oops, that's not how you spell that. Let's go! I consider me surprised. Hello. Oh my god, that's hideous. Wait, can we... wait, have I done this before? How do we make it not tile? What the fuck? That is truly, I know, right? So like, okay, so here's the thing, right? So previously I was using like a generated like texture like cloud thing, but now we're taking a real image, right? We're taking a real image and we're using that as a map to distort the vertices. Oh, there we go. No, that's not quite right. Okay. Oh my god, what is this? Why is this a setting? Can you not like... Okay, there we go. Fair enough. I see. Interesting. Oh my god, it's beautiful. Why is it, wait, why does it not like, this is so weird. This is like, I did not think this is what what they would mean by fucking extend. Oh wait, hold on, it's working now. Like, do I need fucking measurements for this or something? Sell that as an EFT. I am extremely opposed to NFTs. I wouldn't even do that as a joke. But I also wouldn't be surprised if I saw this being sold as an NFT, to be completely honest with you. I'm sorry, wait, hold on. What did I miss here? And bench, that is, Jesus, that is terrifying. Now that would be really scary. Did I ask how was your stream Graham, I'm so sorry. I'm a bit distracted right now. And now we can re-enable this, right? So now we have the mesh that's being distorted by the effect of this picture of Airbrush Ted Cruz. And then we're applying that process that the geometry nodes are doing. And we can still have like all this control within the nodes. Like we can add a point, like an attribute randomize, put it after this point scale. Sorry, like that. Make the attribute be scale. Geometry nodes have a lot of this stuff where you like have to type in attributes. Which I think is really interesting because you can like type in the names of stuff and you can create new attributes by just like typing things. It's like programming. You keep doing this, it's crazy. Thank you. But yeah, look at this. We still have all this control. Now all the individual orbs are being randomized in scale while still being applied and instanced on this grid that's distorted through a picture of Airbrush Ted Cruz. Technology is just like incredible, you know? Let's add a sunlight so we can see if we turn on the rendering. There we go. Beautiful. Beautiful. Oh god, that's actually fucking terrifying. Sorry if you guys get night terrors because of this. Yeah, wow. Look at all these balls. Wow. Balls. Gotta go watch a movie with J-Man? Enjoy. And thank you again for the raid. Much appreciated. Just imagine some university professors. I would do that, honestly. I would do that. I just love like pulling out random images to use them in stuff. It's so fun. And I have like an entire fucking folder on my desktop with just shitty memes I save from Twitter. It's great. Thank you, Graham. Thank you. And thank you again for the raid. Oh yeah, because these are instances, you can just apply materials and shit to the one sphere that's being used here. You can also shade smooth here. If you shade smooth, then they're all shade smooth. And if you fuck with the texture of this, with the material, it affects all of these. So now we have a bunch of metal balls. Very cool. You can also make them less rough. So now they're very reflective metal balls. Beautiful. 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 Oh, let me show you guys a really cool node. I love using this. It's my favorite node that I've learned about recently in the shading shit. Let's get it, Suzanne here. Hello. Hello, dear. Wait, why did I pause the music? I think I don't want to get distracted. There we go. You can come here, and now layer weight. Layer weight is really cool, but I don't know how to explain how it works. Let's see. If we map this through a color ramp, you can kind of see what it does. Right? I'm gonna make the base color black so it's easier to see. Change this to be this color blue. It's like you know, like from the edges, Does that make sense? It takes information from the edges, and it's like relative to the camera as well. It's just so cool, and you can make such neat things with it. Look at this. Wow. Wait, maybe not like that actually. There we go. That's what I wanted. Yeah, look at this. Wow. Wow. Anyway, oh, true. I forgot about the time. There we go. It's a media share time. So Segment could become a meme. It's funny you say that because I've actually there's been a time where I kind of did this, but on a different. It was actually in Fusion. Hold on. Let me get the. I think I made a Twitter clip of it. Let me see if I can find that. Oh wait, no. I don't know if I can find it. Yeah, I'm not gonna be able to fucking find it. Never mind. But yes, hello anyone watching this on YouTube. Sorry for the awkward segue, but I just realized the time. So yes, hello YouTube VOD people. Goodbye.